Hey, everybody. My name is Tim Hodgkiss, and I'm an intellectual property attorney, but I am so much more than that. You need to check out my podcast on YouTube. It's called The Identity Crisis Project. And if you want to learn how to level up in life, you need to check out my good friend Angela Lilacs podcast called The People's Coach.
Maybe you're thinking, it's too late for change. You're already established and life is good, but it's definitely not great. Welcome to The People's Coach, your guide to living with more purpose and fulfillment. This is how life optimization should be. Brought to you by our host, Angelo Lilac.
I'm the story you don't speak of. I'm the one they call the underdog.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to The People's Coach. I'm Angelo. I'm your host. And before we get things started, make sure that you're following us on iTunes. If you haven't already, please leave us a rating and review and help us grow this movement. If you want more information, you can visit me at angelolilac.com. Welcome to the show. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the People's Coach podcast. I'm sitting here with a good friend of mine, another fellow RTA brother, Mr. Tim Hodgkiss. Tim, how you doing today, bro?
Angelo, I'm doing incredible. It's been a long time. We've talked so many times on the phone, and finally to be on your podcast. Thank you. What a journey it's been for me, and a journey watching you emerge and grow and just master your domain here on this podcast.
Oh, man. You're too kind, brother. And I really appreciate you making the time to be here today, because I know how busy you are. Guys, like Tim is my go-to guy. All those trademarks and TMs and Rs you see on my brand, on my personal, my business brand, Tim is the guy I go to. Many of you have gone to him, because I always recommend, when you guys are asking me, who do I go to for trademarks? Who do I go to for this? Who do I go? I was like, Tim's your man. So here he is. We're recording this podcast, and I'm just so excited for him to be here because he has such an interesting story. As you can tell, Tim is unapologetically him. He's rocking the colorful background, the awesome jacket, the hat. He had a killer red scarf earlier, and I was like, dude, your swag level is at 100 right now, bro. Yeah. I love it, man. I love it. So why don't you go and start just telling people who don't know you yet a little bit about you, a little bit about your background, and we'll just transition from there.
Well, Angelo, it's been a hell of a story. I have 3 degrees. I have a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering, a master's degree in business, and I have my law degree. That took a lot of years to accumulate all those acronyms behind my name. And truthfully, I really don't like to be defined by those, degrees and scholastic achievements. Really, my best achievement has been getting on this podcast. Believe it or not, getting to this and sharing who I am and having the opportunity to be here with you and share my true story and the mission and the passion that has just pushed me to get to now. And it all really started, back in school, high school, middle school, just being a supremely shy, introverted person. And with that came low self-esteem. Even though I had this energy inside of me, I just never felt comfortable, putting it out there for people to judge and, give their opinion on. And that was going to be too raw. And when I did do it, I felt that raw cutting kind of rejection in a way, because I always stood out in the way I dressed. That was one thing I really couldn't repress, even though I was very shy and introverted. I always dressed more, say outlandish. And so it attracted attention, generally, bullying and that sort of thing, negative attention. And that further, pushed me into a corner, into the shadows. And I didn't know how to stand up for myself. I didn't know how to fight back. I just didn't have that ability within me. And, that, segued into going to college. And I always loved technology. So
Mhm.
I knew I was going to go into engineering, and that engineering degree was a lot of fun. It also gave me the opportunity to really hide out behind the books, because you're reading all the time and
Mm.
just doing insane amounts of homework, and you're not really working on your social skills. So that's a great opportunity just to kind of avoid what my problems were, which was getting out of my own way and really building my self-esteem and
Wow.
having an openness to people. I was kind of hesitant of people because when I did open up, it was always kind of not always, but a large amount of time it was bullying or people being critical, and I didn't want to
Mhm.
experience that again. So I stayed very closed into myself. And so through
Wow.
through my
That
engineering, yeah,
I'm sorry to cut you off, man. So
no,
I just want to make sure like I'm getting this because this is the first time I'm hearing this, and I've known you
mhm,
for a handful of years now, and we've had all these amazing conversations. Yet
yeah,
I didn't know these intricacies in your life and how you were. So just so we're on the same page and all the listeners are able to follow along and painting the picture for them,
mhm,
you were already like expressing yourself outwardly with your
yeah.
clothing, but deep inside you were still like very, very introverted,
Oh,
right?
extremely introverted. Like I would avoid
Wow.
groups. I would avoid doing like group functions. People would ask me, "Hey, do you want to come out?" Even like in college, let's just take like the bachelor's degree, my first foray into college. "Hey, we're all going out. Do you want to come with us?" And I would always say no. I said no to so many things. And that's why, when we get to the arete thing, how that really shifted. But yeah, I dressed kind of the part that was in my head, but when it came to actually showing up and delivering vocally and verbally and participating, yeah, I totally retreated. I was, yeah,
That's so interesting
yeah,
because like you've accomplished, like you said, I didn't actually know that about you either. You had
no.
you have three bachelor's degrees. So
Yep,
you're
I have a bachelor's,
accomplished.
master's, and I have
Eh,
three
three
degrees.
degrees. Three
Yeah,
degrees and inside you still didn't feel like you could.
I wasn't satisfied. That, and for a lot
Mm,
of people, becoming an attorney is like the end game, right? Like
right.
I have conquered the world.
Yeah,
And for
yeah.
me, it was like I didn't go to my graduation to become a lawyer. I didn't go to that ceremony.
You
I
didn't
didn't care.
go.
No, I went to my other ones, but that one, it was really hard. Law school was supremely painful, and I'll just segue. After my bachelor's degree, um, I, there was just still this thirst. I still hadn't found what it is that I wanted to do. I like
Mm,
technology, but I didn't want to be a professional engineer.
hmm.
There was something that kept pushing me forward. And then, you know, business, marketing, I'm very creative, as you might be able to tell. And so I got the chance to really, get into that and dig in and see what marketing's all about. And I really enjoyed
Mm,
that. But again, buried in a book, a few more, projects and stuff that was, pushing me out of my shell. But I was still petrified to do any sort of public speaking or really, I could work in groups up to an extent. I could still function. It's just like being social outside of that scholastic, that academic setting was still a little bit hard for me.
mm,
One-on-one, I was fine because I felt
hmm,
like, okay, I trust this person. I can open up
mm.
on a one-on-one. But in a group, 3, 4, 5 people, we're going out. It's like, you know, I wasn't showing up 100%. I was always holding some of me back. So, um, from that, I knew that I wasn't going to be like a business executive. And through the MBA coursework, I was exposed to patent law, which what we do is we describe inventions. And that's, I have the technology background. I love to write. I'm a pretty good writer. And that's
Mm.
what patent lawyers do, one aspect of the law that I do. And it was perfect. But what I didn't know about law school is it's all the Socratic method. So you're sitting there
Mm.
in class and the professor is just scanning. Oh, you. I'm going to ask you about 500 questions, it feels like, for this, either 45 minutes or the full hour, hour and a half, whatever it is, and just relentlessly question after question after question. And you're just the center of attention the entire time. And that freaked me out hard. And the very first day of law school, I was on the radar. I got, called on. And I just remember standing up, because you stand up and you got like 40 or 50 people in class that are just watching you. And it was just every day from that day forward was sheer
Really?
terror. I was in just such a state of anxiety, because I was fearful that everything I said wasn't going to be perfect. It wasn't me correct. And I didn't want to show any sort of, inferiority or any sort of, thing like that. I wanted to be perfect because my self-esteem was so locked into not my true essence, but being able to recite facts. And my self-esteem was way out of whack. And so
Wow.
that was hell. That was really hell. Sometimes I just can't believe that I even made it through. At one point, I just remember saying I was going to quit, but I didn't.
Thank God you didn't quit, because obviously we wouldn't be here speaking today. But I
Right,
think
right.
I'm curious, if you don't mind me asking, where do you think that, I guess, anxiety came from, of, or that getting nervous when being called upon, or being
Yeah,
in groups of people? Where do you think it, like a childhood thing, or is there a specific moment
beautiful.
that you could maybe think it came
This
from?
is a beautiful, beautiful question, because
Mm.
it was a search that I had been on since the realm of like the internet. When the internet first came on, because I've gone to doctors and, I've reached out and I've done my own introspection and spent a lot of time in this head trying to
Mm-hmm.
unravel what the causal issue is. And after going to, 10, 12, 15 doctors, asking questions, trying to see, is it like a vitamin deficiency? Is it something, physiological
Mm-hmm.
that way? And getting really, really bad advice. Like at one point I had a doctor telling me, well, maybe you should try an antidepressant. And I had friends that were were diagnosed with clinical depression. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm not depressed. It's just there's this anxiety thing. Like I'm still functioning. And all through my, adolescence and all that, you get these random blood tests and you get
Mm-hmm.
your cholesterol measured. And mine always would be towards the low end of the spectrum, which we're taught that that's good. Like you want your cholesterol low. If your cholesterol is high, you need to take a medication, right? Well,
Mm-hmm.
I pushed and pushed and pushed. So all throughout law school, then I became a practicing attorney. All through those years, I've been doing this 15, 16 years. For a good 10 years, I dedicated myself to try and figure out what was going on with me, because I was still, up until 5 years, still really limited in how I still had issues, with self-esteem and anxiety. And I just didn't give up. And I kept researching. I kept trying to find doctors that understood situations. And all I was running into is doctors that, I don't know, all they wanted to do was give you diabetic medication. Like I didn't feel like
Mm-hmm.
there's any specialty in this area of Ohio that was really looking at me as a complete person. Like we're not doing a comprehensive blood panel or anything. Like I knew there was something wasn't right with the way I was being treated by doctors. So I
Right.
kept pushing and searching, and I found this incredible Russian doctor, like just a random website. And I sent him an email and he called me back like that same day. And we talked for about a half hour and I explained what was going on. He said, I think I can help you. And so we scheduled an appointment. I went in and he did the most comprehensive blood work I think you can get. I had 14 vials of blood taken
Whoa.
at the lab. And the phlebotomist who was drawing the blood was like, are you sure about this? This is a lot. So I got a full blood panel and my cholesterol was like supremely low enough that it was affecting hormones, which affects your
Wow.
neurotransmitters, right? And so once we knew that, we knew the right therapies to get on to bring, testosterone, estrogen, DHEA, all these things
Yeah.
influence who we are. And
Mm.
and so once we figured all this out, it was like somebody flipped a switch, and it
Wow.
was profound. I was working at a law firm at the
Mm.
time, and I went from being the king introvert to like the king extrovert, really. And it felt like this construct that was in my mind all those years, that avatar of who I am, like this very provocative person who, expresses himself without, any sort of care or concern or fear of judgment, kind of started to show up. And it felt so, so good. And that was a real big epiphany and a big pivot point for me, moving out these last 5 years. But because I spent a lot of time wrapped up in that kind of fearful anxiety, it's my brain's kind of wired, in a way that I'm still working on to get, we're still improving and still moving forward. But that was a huge part of it, is finding a doctor that really wanted to take the time and understand and, drill down into it. So,
Man, that's amazing. I mean,
yeah.
kudos to you for having the persistency of no, there's something more, because that's something that we all too
Yes.
often hear, right? Maybe we'll ask one or two people and they'll be like, "Hey, that's a bad idea, forget it."
Yeah.
Right? And this is a great segue into entrepreneurship and how we met
Right.
through Arate, right? How
Right.
many people doubt us before we start to prove everybody wrong? How many
Right.
people tell us that can't be done? It's not possible. You can't do that. You're not smart. You don't have 3 degrees. You don't have this. You're not confident enough. You can't speak. And all of a sudden, we're playing into this narrative that all these people had built up because of their
Mhm.
limited identity of us. And it's caused
Right.
our own limited identity to just be crap.
Exactly. We'll accept other people's opinion of us instead of believing that we know enough to do whatever we want to do. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Yeah. So I never settled. I never accepted
Yes.
any sort of doctor's opinion.
Mm.
I knew they were missing something, and that led me to start to
Mm.
believe in myself and trust myself more. And it just started to build and build and build, and so my self-esteem and self-confidence, it started to elevate and raise, and I started to show up as who I really am. So, yeah, you're so
My
right.
goodness. I love that, man. I love that. So that kind of brings us to where you are today.
Mhm.
It's so funny when the first time you told me that you were shy, introverted, I was like, Tim, I mean, you're my boy, but I've seen your Instagram. Like,
I know, right?
there's
Right?
no shyness in there. So I'm
No,
not sure what you're talking about. So when
no.
people see you now and they see like that you're not like that typical lawyer,
Mm-mm.
right? You don't dress like
No.
it, you don't speak like it, right? And this is just kind of like, this is you being unapologetically you and being so empowered by it.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
How has this new confidence changed your perspective in life and business and in everything you do?
Well, it's anything's possible. There are no
Mm.
limits. And that's something I always told myself. And that's the way I always live my life. Like, that's why I never accepted anybody else's opinion, from medical doctor wise. That's why I kept
Mm.
pushing myself. There's got to be an answer. There's got to be an answer. And I spent like 10 years. I was just dedicated to it. And I was going down a lot of rabbit holes that didn't, bear any fruit. But what it told me is that I was right all along. Like, I just need to trust me. Like, I need to be around people that believe in themselves, because I didn't have that circle and network that was supporting me. I was doing this all alone. And so I started to
Wow.
take on this mentality for a period of time. It's me against the world, because the doctors weren't having my back. They just wanted to put me on a script so they could, get some, payment on the table for writing more prescriptions for antidepressants and things like that. And so that kind of, even though I was emerging and on that path, it still
Mhm.
kind of, made me fearful that people aren't here for me. But as I emerged out of that and I found that doctor, I started to connect with and build a circle around me of like-minded people. And, that was the impetus to Arate. And there's a little bit of a story in between there. Me kind of getting on the path to where I am now, and Arate. And that was, I went to the 10X GrowthCon 2 convention, Grant Cardone's event in Las
In
Vegas.
Vegas? Yeah, me
Yep, the
too.
Vegas one. You were there? That's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
That's crazy. I went to that one for the sole purpose of I was going to network my ass off because I had never really done that before. And I was feeling like my confidence was sky high. I had these new business cards made up and that's what I did. Like I was just by myself. I didn't go with anybody else. And, that place was immense. And so the whole time I'm just like playing back the story that I just, recounted for everybody. That I was so shy. Like I am, and I'm not even exaggerating. I'd have to be the shyest person in the world. And then to be able to be out amongst these 9,000 people, overwhelming traffic and just walking up to people, introducing myself. So that was a big springboard. And then I saw Forbes Riley speak at that event. And I don't know if you remember her
I
coming
remember
on
that. I remember
stage,
that.
but I remember her from the infomercial world. And because I love technology, I was always like, what are these infomercials? What are they trying to push now? What are they trying to say?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's always some kind of like funky invention type thing. But that name has followed me throughout my life because she had done different things. But I didn't know she was a motivational speaker. But when she came out on the stage and like was rocking it, and she was like, the reason I'm on the stage and none of you aren't is because I dream bigger than everybody else. I'm like, oh my God, I've had these dreams in my head. And I'm starting to, fulfill them. Like there's a reason why she said that, because the hair on my arm standing up and I'm just feeling all like a certain way. And so I reached out, I created my first Facebook account right after that event, because I wasn't on social media up until then. And I reached out to her, connected with her, started watching her lives. And then I wrote a book review. She mentioned me on a live and I'm like, oh my God, Forbes Riley mentioned my name. And I saw her on the stage at the Mandalay Bay. Oh my God, I'm freaking out. And I went to some of her personal events that she runs, Breakthrough Training, Forbes Factor down in Florida, and got to know her. We worked together on a book. I wrote a book with her. And I got to actually help run some of her events. So it's been really cool, like to get really close to that energy, that inspirational energy, and just, going from.
Dude, that's so awesome.
Yeah,
dude, that's so I mean, you went from going to an event, saw the
9,000
speaker.
people. Yeah,
exactly. I remember how busy that was, especially when ClickFunnels came on and everyone was like, boom, I got to go get that. Cool. Yeah, I was one of those folks that stood in that long ass line. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I know. I was like that. So then you hear her speak. You're like, I vibe with you. Like, there's a reason why I heard what you said, how you said it at the time you said it. It was perfect timing. And then, I mean, what are we talking, months or a year later or 2 years later? All of a sudden, you're you're collaborating with them, someone who you admired. Now you're collaborating with. I mean,
yeah, we had connected through Facebook. She was promoting a book and she said, if anybody could, write a review for the book and post it on Amazon. And I immediately thought, well, that's a way for me to kind of get in and maybe she'll recognize my name. And lo and behold, I wrote the review. She mentioned me on a Facebook Live and I'm like, oh my God. And I just stayed connected. And then like 3-4 months later, she had an event. And she knew my name when I came to it. And it was really, really cool. And it just felt so gratifying that I was able to, I had a plan, I executed the plan, and it played out exactly. I did it. And this is just, again, me. I did it. I need to trust me. I found the doctor that put me in the position to do this. Now start trusting yourself, Tim. Good things happen when you trust yourself. And so then from there, it was just like, it happened really fast. I probably went to Florida every 3 months from that point forward for her events and to help and, do different things. It was an incredible experience, an incredible opportunity. And it was more momentum for me, going forward. All the while I'm still an attorney, still working. But at the same time, this is all a very long path. Like life is a long journey. Some people are happy. Some people are happy to pull off that road and, being an attorney, boom, this is it. This is what I wanted. I achieved it. I'm happy here. Me, I always viewed it as this is part of my journey. Like it's going to continue. And that's why, when you presented this opportunity to come on the podcast, I said, absolutely. Like, I feel like this is part of my purpose. This is what I was meant to do, was go through that turmoil and all of those frustrating times and all that pain.
Oh man,
to share it and motivate people to keep pushing. Don't give up. Like, that's the biggest thing I can tell people is don't ever give up. And it frustrates me to no end to see people give up like after 1 or 2 attempts. Like, sometimes it takes 15 attempts in 10 years. Like, don't give up. Don't settle. I could never be satisfied. Like, that's this thing. I was never satisfied. So I just had to keep pushing to find that key to unlock this. And now that I'm on the path, like, I can feel it. Like, there's just no limit. Like, I don't know where I'm headed. I just know I'm heading the right direction,
Oh my goodness. Amen to that. Times 100. Dude, that's, man, you've been dropping bombs these last 2 minutes. I don't even want, I just wanted to like take myself off of like this interview and just let you keep going for the next 20 minutes. Bro, I wasn't trying to be rude. I looked away for a second because I had to grab my notepad and pen to write something down. Something that you said that I think this is probably going to be the title of the podcast. Good things happen when what'd you say?
Oh, now you're putting me on the spot.
You said good things happen when you trust yourself.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. We are so quick to hand over our power to other people that we think know better than us, and doctors are a perfect example. And after my experience, I started talking to, it's funny because once I got to that period where I was more open, I was more comfortable in my own skin, let's say. And then I started to really, I just started opening up and sharing this and people started coming to me, and I would talk to them about, their medical journeys and things that were going on with them. And it's crazy how quickly people just give up and resign and are resigned to, well, there are no options. This is just the way it's going to be. And I could never ever accept that. Like, ever. Like, I would spend my entire life just trying to figure it out if I had to. Luckily it didn't take that. But, there was a person that I work with who was going through some serious, knee problems. And I encouraged her to, reach out to other doctors, find a different path in, and maybe they'll take a look at you. And she was resigned to, I'm not going to be able to get, a knee replacement. I'm too young and this sort of thing. And, she was able to get something done because she kept pushing and she reached out. So I felt really good. Like, I was able to impart some of that, and that just kept me going forward on this path. And here we are. And yeah, self-empowerment, expressing who you are unapologetically is huge. It's a huge deal for me because we're just all so really cool. And I feel like a lot of us play it so close to our chest, and we're not, we should all be comfortable in our skin, and I'll express it because it makes life more interesting and entertaining and fun. And I've repressed it for so long that, I can't help it now. So
let me ask you something, Tim. I don't know if anyone's ever asked you this, but if you could go back with the confidence that you have now, if you can go back in any point in your time in life, what would that event be? What would you change?
I don't know if it would be one event per se, but I always felt like 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Like, I was really, like, to look at me, you would think I'd be like the most popular person like in the school.
Yeah.
But to talk to me was a whole, like, if you talk to me one-on-one like this, you'd probably still think that. Add some people around it, put me in a class. I was a closed book. I could not talk. Not to say I didn't talk, but I just got so nervous, so anxious. What I said didn't add up. It was such a painful thing for me to do. And it's like anything that you don't like to do, you don't do it particularly well until you really embrace it and just go for it. And that was my struggle. And if I could have if I could have bridged that gap back then I don't know. Would I have gone down the route of becoming an engineer? And that would have gone into more, this sort of thing, being on camera right away or whatever. But something was always in my head about being out in front of people, sharing my opinion, sharing my story, celebrating, who we are as individuals, because I always loved big, bold personalities, sports celebrities. Dennis Rodman was like one of my heroes, just because he was unapologetic. Like, talk about that. Like, he just did it. And I remember getting that book that he wrote and him talking about being in the parking lot. And, he was very conservative and cookie cutter and just wanted to fit into the NBA mold. But then one day in that parking lot, he just shifted it. He's like, I got to be me. And I so totally understand that and connect with that. And I just want that for everybody, feel comfortable in your own skin and celebrate it.
So let's fast forward a bit. And thank you for sharing, by the way. That was, man, this podcast, man, it's powerful, because the words that you're saying, it resonates a lot with me. Being unapologetically you, not trying to live up to other people's expectations. I think that's one of the signs of greatness is when, and by no means am I calling myself great, but I think that it's a sign of greatness when you can cut off others' opinions of who you are, who you're supposed to be, and just be you. I think there's a sense of empowerment. And like, when you come from a place of just truth, you're unbeatable. And there's one thing that you said a few minutes back when you were like, I don't know what exactly is going to be next, but I just get this sense that I'm okay. You're going to be okay. Yeah. Right.
Yeah,
like,
I know. I know.
And that's the thing with life. It's our ability to be adaptable. Like, yes, it's good to have goals and to have a plan, but as you and I both know, life doesn't always work out to that plan. So part of it is just really being present in the now and just enjoying the ride for what it is.
Exactly. Go with it. I've been talking about the universe here recently. Once I entered into this world of motivation and inspiration. And I got to say, I watched the movie The Secret. Like, I watched that show so many times, and I didn't know about it. And then when I watched it, I'm like, this makes such perfect sense, because the universe tells you exactly what you need to know. Like, it'll put you in so much pain to make you listen. And it's like, how much pain are you going to tolerate before there's doors, they're there. You have options. There's always options. How strong are you going to be? How much pain are you going to tolerate before you just accept the short-term pain for the long-term gain? And that's what it was for me too. That the door was there. Like, I switched law firms about a year ago, and I wasn't having fun. It was, boring. The attorneys that I was working with were just kind of, tired and just all to themselves. And I just wasn't happy. And there's a lot of other things playing into that too. And it's like, how much pain am I going to tolerate? Like, I need to make a move. And once I put that intention out there, well, lo and behold, I got an email come in from a recruiter. And normally I discount those. I delete them. But this time I responded, and that turned into the law firm that I'm working for now. And so it's really putting that intention out there and being willing to walk through some of these doors instead of enduring this pain, that the universe is telling you something like, you're not happy. Okay, well, listen, there's happiness over there. Are you willing to take those steps? Like, are you just going to stay stuck and self-sabotage and come up with all these excuses? And, more pain's going to come. More pain's going to come. Just listen to it. And so that's what I've kind of embraced. And so I'm on this journey because it feels good. This is where I feel I feel the most comfortable here. And so why wouldn't I be here?
Yeah. And it shows, it shows like the way you show up on camera, the way you're speaking now, the videos and the Instagram stories that I see from you. You're just enjoying yourself, man. I was cracking up, man. You posted something. I think it was a day or two ago, and I think you were you were with. I know. I was like, Tim. I was like, it's perfect that he did this right before our podcast interview, because this just totally sums up how you were with the bear.
Oh,
With
the Care Bear.
and you're with the Care Bear, exactly. Yeah. I was laughing. I was like, man, this guy is having so much fun, because that's what dude. People just have to enjoy more. Mm-hmm. I think that, especially where I am in life right now, you know, I've achieved what I've achieved in the fitness industry, in the wellness industry, and it was cool. You know, it was okay. And earlier, before we started recording, you had mentioned at the bottom of the podcast, if you guys are watching, it shows all the different articles and publications I've been featured on, and you're like, oh, that's a lot. And honestly, I'm not even trying to be humble about it, but it was like, yeah, it's cool, but it wasn't like enough. You know, I feel like there's something more in my life. I feel like I've lived, I've lived under other people's expectations of who I'm supposed to be, that I just got tired of it. Like, I've built up this identity as an entrepreneur, and but there's still more to me than that. Right. And I just admire you so much for just being like, okay, I'm not happy with this law firm. Okay, I'll find a new one. And that was one of the things personally for me, I had challenges with, because why would I separate from an industry that's been so good to me, that's allowed me to get featured and done so much for my career? I just sounded ungrateful in my head. Like, why aren't I grateful? And it's just this constant, why aren't you grateful? You should be happy. You should be this. You should be thankful. And then, like, it just crippled me until I got to the point where, like, yeah, no, this is just a part of me, but it's not who I am.
Right. Exactly. It doesn't define you. And listening to our intuition and trusting ourselves, that kind of goes hand in hand. You know, we have this intuition. We know what feels good. We know, we have a good gauge of, you know, is this really serving me well? Am I really happy? And we lie to ourselves. You know, we lie to ourselves a lot. Like you were saying, you know, I should be grateful. I should be happy. I should, but you're not. And back to the law firm switch, I didn't even actively search for it. It just showed up. Because I put the intention out there that, you know, I'm going to do something. Something's going to change. I am open to change, whatever it is. That showed up, and, you know, and we're still going forward. I don't know what the next year is going to look like. I don't know what the next 5 years are going to look like, but I know when I'm happy and when I'm not. And I've accepted that if things aren't making me happy and they're not serving me, then I'm not going to continue doing them. And that has really served me in the last 5 years. I've been the most successful I've ever been, the happiest I've ever been, and just the most fulfilled and content I've ever been. And I think that's what's most important.
I love that. This is what this new pivot for this podcast has meant for me. Like, I'm having so much fun. Yep. I'm not like feeling like I don't feel like I created a job for myself like I did in my other businesses. You know, it's like, dang, I just made a job for myself. So let me ask you, because I want to respect your time. We're getting there. As much as I'd love to continue this conversation, what's next for you? I know you said you may not have exactly that goal or that plan, but tell people a little bit about your podcast.
So I started off doing an audio only podcast, and I realized I'm a visual person. I like to express through what I wear, my hand gestures and all that. And I tried valiantly to just do it myself, record myself talking about. I was going to basically do an audio vlog. I didn't want to. I really want to just share my personality, and I don't know if that makes sense, but in doing that, and so I spent a lot of time in this room recording myself, listening to myself. I'm like, I'm not having fun, and I realized I really love vlogging. I love YouTubers. I love that whole energy of people just recording their daily life and sharing it, you know, all the ups and downs, the happy, the sad, some of it's contrived, but I find it as entertainment. And so that's really where my heart and energy is. So I have the Identity Crisis Project podcast, which is a YouTube channel, and I am putting content out there, and it's me. It's me and my life and what's happening and what's going on, and I think that shows up in my Instagram stories. That's really sparked my interest in doing this vlogging, and I don't know where that's going to take me. I would love to, champion the movement of, celebrate who you are and be the lead on that, and, be comfortable in your own skin, and just, that's where my head's at right now, but I don't know where that's going to change. But it's important for me to share my message and keep moving forward and just being open and honest and transparent to people out there, whether or not it's me trying to be entertaining and funny, like with the Care Bear thing, or sharing, more serious things and the struggles I've moved through in life. I just really want to celebrate all of that. And that's what the Identity Crisis Project's about.
I love that, the Identity Crisis Project.
Yeah.
So guys, make sure you follow Tim. And Tim, how can they, by the way, awesome title for your podcast. I think it's so fitting. And I remember when you and I were talking about it, I'm like, dude, that's so you. That's perfect. That is perfect. How can people get in touch with you on Instagram or Facebook? What's your social media?
Yeah, my social media, Instagram, Facebook is Tim_Hodgkiss, and that's HODGKISS. And I'm all over that. You can direct message me. I'm pretty much an open book. And yeah, my law firm's Buckingham, Doolittle and Burroughs. If you have any legal questions, intellectual property questions, that's where I practice. That's my day job. And yeah.
Awesome. And if I can give you a chance to speak to the Tim, let's say 10 years ago, what would you tell that person right now?
Just keep going. Just keep going. Don't stop. Do not stop. Don't stop. You're going to get where you want to be. Trust it. Trust it. Just trust the process. Don't give up. And that's what I tell everybody. Keep on going.
Keep on swimming. Keep on swimming.
Keep on swimming. And don't settle. Don't settle. Don't settle for anything less than what you want. That's so important. We settle and we compromise. Sometimes you have to, but when our intuition's telling us, I'm not so sure about that, trust that intuition, keep pushing forward. And I'd say 9 times out of 10, you're going to get what you really want.
Tim, my brother, thank you so much for being on the show. I'm so excited to share this with everyone. And guys, if you haven't already, make sure you go ahead, follow Tim. If you don't already have his Instagram, we're going to make sure we add that into the show notes. Tim, thank you so much once again. Thank you for being on the show, brother.
My pleasure. Thank you, Angelo.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? I hope that you enjoyed the show. Make sure you follow me at angeloliloc.com. That's ANGELOLILOC. You'll receive our weekly newsletters, any updates, any events, giveaways, all that kind of stuff every week straight to your inbox. All right, we want to make sure that it's easy and convenient for you. We'll see you guys next week. Thank you.